The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between star systems. It was built for one purpose: to host meetings between different alien species when they needed to talk without fighting. Today was special. Today, the humans were coming to join the Galactic Council for the first time. Inside the main meeting hall, 12 different types of aliens waited. Each group looked completely different from the others. The Thrakari stood like giant lizards with sharp teeth and red scales. Their guards carried plasma rifles that glowed with deadly energy. The Vorthon looked like walking crystals that changed colors when they thought. Even their guards were beautiful, holding weapons that looked like art pieces but could cut through steel. Commander Zexthul of the Thrakari paced back and forth. His heavy boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. "Where are these humans?" he growled to his aide. "Do they think we have all day to wait?" The crystalline Vorthon representative, High Counselor Prism 9, flashed yellow with annoyance. "Perhaps they are afraid," the crystal being said in a voice like wind chimes. "Many species fear their first council meeting." Near the viewing windows, the insect-like klaxon delegation buzzed and clicked to each other. Their translator spoke for the group. "The swarm wonders if humans understand council rules. All delegates must bring armed guards. This has been law for 1,000 years. Security Chief Karen of the Nexari walked between the groups. The Nexari looked like tall, thin people with blue skin and 4 arms. Karen's job was to keep everyone safe during the meeting. She carried a scanner that could detect any weapon in the room. Right now it was beeping constantly because every delegation had brought enough firepower to fight a small war. "They will come," Karen said calmly. "Humans are known to be punctual." The reptilian Soros delegation hissed softly. Their leader, Scale Master Vorth, had scars all over his green hide from assassination attempts. "In my experience, new species either bring too many weapons or too few. Both mistakes are deadly." Through the large windows, they could see a small human ship approaching the docking bay. It looked simple compared to the other vessels. The Thrakari ship had gun turrets visible all over its hull. The ethereal collective's ship glowed with energy shields. The human ship just looked like a plain metal box with engines. "There," said Karen. "They arrive now." All the aliens turned to watch as the docking tube connected. The airlock hissed open and the human delegation walked into the station. Ambassador Lisa Carter stepped out first. She was a middle-aged woman with short brown hair and a calm smile. She wore a simple dark blue uniform with no decorations except a small flag patch. Behind her came 2 more humans. One was a tall man with short black hair named Jake Sullivan. The other was a woman with long dark hair called Maria Rodriguez. Both wore the same simple uniforms as the ambassador. The alien delegates stared. Then they stared harder. The humans carried no weapons. Jake had a small tablet computer in one hand and what looked like a regular pen in the other. Maria carried a bag that seemed to hold papers and maybe a water bottle. That was it. Commander Zexthul's jaw dropped open, showing his sharp teeth. "Where are their guards?" he asked loudly. Ambassador Carter walked forward with confidence. "I am Lisa Carter, representing Earth and humanity. These are my diplomatic guards, Jake Sullivan and Maria Rodriguez." The silence in the room was complete. Even the usually chattering klaxon bugs had stopped making noise. High Counselor Prism 9 flashed bright red, which meant extreme confusion in Vorthon body language. "Ambassador Carter, forgive the question, but where are your weapons?" Lisa smiled. "We don't carry weapons." Scale Master Vorth stepped forward, his reptilian eyes wide. "You joke, yes? This is human humor we have heard about." "No joke," Jake said cheerfully. He held up his tablet. "Just this and my notebook," Maria nodded. "And my reference materials." She patted her bag. The room erupted in noise. The Thrakari began roaring to each other in their harsh language. The klaxon bugs started clicking so fast their translator couldn't keep up. The ethereal collective, who usually stayed calm, began glowing bright white with alarm. Security Chief Karen walked over to the humans. Her scanner wasn't beeping at all when she pointed it at them. "I must ask officially, you carry no defensive equipment? No energy shields? No weapons of any kind?" "That's correct," Lisa said. Karen looked worried. "Ambassador, I must warn you. Council meetings can be dangerous. Last cycle, the Zephyrian delegation was killed by hidden explosives. 3 cycles before that, assassins used poison gas. We have had knife attacks, laser snipers, and once someone tried to use a trained attack creature." Jake nodded seriously. "We understand the risks. Then why? Commander Zexthul demanded. He stomped over to tower above the humans. Why do you insult us by coming here defenseless? Do you think we are so primitive that we would attack diplomats? Or do you think you are so superior that you need no protection? Added High Counselor Prism 9, now flashing angry red colors. The other delegations began moving closer. Their guards raised their weapons slightly, not quite pointing them at the humans but making it clear they could do so quickly. Lisa raised her hands peacefully. We meant no insult. This is simply how human diplomacy works. Impossible, hissed Scalemaster Vorth. No species can survive in this galaxy without weapons. The strong eat the weak. This is universal law. Maria stepped forward. We have a saying on Earth, the pen is mightier than the sword. Your writing tools are weapons? Asked the Klaxon translator, sounding confused. Jake laughed. It means that words and ideas can be more powerful than violence. This made the aliens even more upset. Commander Zexthul raised his clawed hands. You mock our warrior traditions. You suggest we are fools for protecting ourselves, added Prism 9. Karen moved between the groups before things could get worse. Please, everyone. Let us begin the formal session. Perhaps understanding will come through discussion. But as the delegates moved toward the meeting table, they kept staring at the humans. Some looked angry. Others looked confused. A few looked worried, as if the humans might be setting some kind of trap. Lisa, Jake, and Maria walked calmly to their seats. They seemed completely comfortable, even though they were surrounded by armed aliens who didn't understand them at all. The first formal meeting between humans and the Galactic Council was about to begin. Nobody knew what would happen next. The great meeting hall of Nexus Prime had hosted diplomatic talks for over 1,000 years. Its walls held memories of peace treaties, trade agreements, and declarations of war. But today felt different. Today everyone was staring at three humans who had broken the most basic rule of galactic diplomacy. High Counselor Prism 9 activated the official translator system. The crystal being's voice echoed through the chamber as colored lights flashed across its surface. This council session begins with a formal question. Ambassador Carter of Earth, why do your guards carry no weapons? Lisa Carter stood up slowly. Around her, alien guards shifted nervously. Plasma rifles hummed with power. Energy weapons cast colored glows across the room. In contrast, Jake Sullivan simply took notes on his tablet while Maria Rodriguez organized papers in her bag. Honorable Council members, Lisa began. On Earth, we learned long ago that diplomatic guards serve best when they build trust instead of fear. Commander Zexthul slammed his clawed fist on the table. Trust, he roared. Trust gets you killed. My own grandfather was murdered during peace talks because he trusted the wrong species. The Thrakari commander gestured toward his guards. These warriors have saved my life 17 times. Their weapons have stopped assassins, bombs, and poison attacks. Without them, I would be dead. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Scalemaster Vorth nodded his scarred reptilian head. The Soros Republic has lost 4 ambassadors in my lifetime, all killed during diplomatic meetings, all because someone wanted to stop peace talks. The insectoid Klaxon delegation began their rapid clicking. Their translator spoke for the swarm. The Klaxon Collective questions human intelligence. In galaxy history, over 3,000 diplomats have died during council sessions. How do humans expect to survive without protection? Jake looked up from his tablet. If I may ask, how many of those deaths happened because of weapon accidents or guards who got scared and started shooting? The room went quiet. Several delegates looked uncomfortable. Security Chief Karen stepped forward. The records show that 43% of diplomatic deaths were caused by weapon malfunctions, guard mistakes, or situations where armed guards made violence worse instead of stopping it. That is still less than 60% caused by real attacks. Prism 9 flashed orange. The mathematics favor armed protection. Maria stood up and pulled a thick folder from her bag. We studied those records before coming here. Most of the real attacks started as misunderstandings that escalated because everyone had weapons ready. She opened the folder and began reading. Cycle 847, the Meridian Incident. Ambassador killed when translator malfunction made peaceful greeting sound like death threat. Guards opened fire immediately. She turned a page. Cycle 923, the Proxima Disaster. 16 delegates died when one guard mistook a ceremonial gift for a weapon. Commander Zexthul growled. You cherry-pick examples. What about real terrorists? Real assassins? Cycle 1205, Maria continued calmly. The Vegan Summit. Actual assassins killed 3 ambassadors, but the death toll reached 47 because guards from different species started shooting each other in the confusion. The ethereal collective representative began glowing brighter. The ethereals were peaceful energy beings who rarely spoke. When they did talk, everyone listened. The humans present interesting data, but data does not stop plasma bolts or poison gas. Lisa nodded respectfully toward the glowing being. You're absolutely right. Our approach doesn't stop all violence, but it prevents the violence that fear and mistrust create. Explain, hissed Scale Master Vorth. Jake closed his tablet and stood up. How many of you have been in a room where everyone has guns pointed at each other? Several delegates raised hands, claws, or tentacles. How did you feel? Jake asked. Nervous, admitted a delegate from the aquatic tidewalker species. Ready to fight? Growled Commander Zexthul. Afraid someone would shoot first, said Scale Master Vorth quietly. Jake nodded. Exactly. And when everyone feels that way, someone usually does shoot first. Even when nobody really wants to fight. Maria pulled out another paper. Earth had the same problem. We had something called the Cold War, where 2 groups of humans pointed weapons at each other for decades. Nobody wanted to fight, but everybody was afraid the other side would attack first. How did it end? Asked Prism 9. People started talking to each other instead of just threatening, Lisa said. They realized the other side was just as scared as they were. Security Chief Karen had been listening carefully. Ambassador Carter, your theory sounds nice, but this station has real security threats. I have detected 3 potential weapons smuggled into this very meeting. What happens when someone actually tries to kill you? The room tensed. Every guard's weapon powered up slightly. The humans didn't even blink. Where are the weapons? Jake asked calmly. Karen hesitated. I cannot reveal security details. Of course not, Maria said. But I'm guessing at least one is with a delegate who's not really a delegate. Someone who's been acting slightly wrong all day. Karen's 4 eyes went wide. How could you know that? Because Maria watches people, Jake explained. She studies how different species act when they're nervous, lying, or pretending to be someone else. Maria nodded. The fake hegemony delegate in the back row keeps looking at exits instead of speakers. The replacement Meridian ambassador has been holding his translator wrong. The real ambassador would know how to use it properly. And someone in the outer rim section has been checking the time every 30 seconds like they're waiting for something. Security Chief Karen quickly spoke into her communicator. Within minutes, her security teams had quietly surrounded the 3 suspects Maria had identified. How? Demanded Commander Zexthul. How did you see what our trained guards missed? Because we weren't watching for weapons, Jake said. We were watching for lies, fear, and people who don't belong. The arrests happened so smoothly that most delegates didn't even notice. Karen's teams found 2 bombs and a poison gas dispenser. All 3 suspects were captured without a single shot being fired. High Counselor Prism 9 flashed through several colors rapidly. The humans detected threats that our security systems missed, without any weapons. This time, Scale Master Vorth said stubbornly, what about next time? What about threats you cannot talk away? Lisa looked around the room. Then we'll deal with those when they happen. But we believe most threats never need to reach that point. Commander Zexthul stared at the humans for a long moment. His guards still held their weapons, but they looked confused now instead of ready to fight. You are either the bravest species in the galaxy, the Thrakari commander said slowly, or the most foolish, Jake smiled. Maybe both. The formal session was about to begin, but now every delegate was thinking about the same question. What else could these weaponless humans do that nobody expected? The main negotiations had been going on for 3 hours. Tempers were rising as they discussed shipping routes through contested space. The Outer Rim Consortium wanted exclusive rights to the Andromeda Pass. The Inner World Alliance claimed they had used those routes first. Meanwhile, the Neutral Zone species worried that either choice would hurt their own trade. Ambassador Lisa Carter watched carefully as the arguments grew louder. Commander Zexthul was standing now, his red scales darker with anger. High Counselor Prism 9 flashed warning colors. Even the usually calm ethereal collective was glowing brighter with stress. The Thrakari Dominion has protected those shipping lanes with our blood. Zexthul roared. 50 of our ships died fighting pirates in the Andromeda Pass. We earned the right to use those routes. Scale Master Vorth hissed back. The Soros Republic mapped those routes 300 cycles ago. Our claim is older than your entire space program. The insectoid Klaxon delegation started clicking rapidly. Their translator barely kept up. The swarm requires access to mineral-rich asteroids in that region. Without those resources, Klaxon colonies will starve. Around the room, guards began moving into defensive positions. Weapons powered up with ominous humming sounds. The Vorthan guards' crystal weapons started glowing brighter. The ethereal collective's energy-based guards flickered with dangerous patterns. Security Chief Karen spoke into her communicator. All security teams to stations. Prepare for possible violence. In the middle of all this tension, Jake Sullivan and Maria Rodriguez sat calmly at their posts behind Ambassador Carter. Neither looked worried. Jake was still taking notes. Maria was reading something on her tablet. Lisa raised her hand. Honorable delegates, I request a 15-minute recess. Granted, said Prism 9 quickly. The crystal being was clearly hoping everyone would calm down during the break, but instead of stepping back or calling for security, Lisa nodded to her guards. Jake and Maria stood up and walked directly toward the angry delegations. Every weapon in the room tracked their movement. Alien guards tensed, ready to fire if the humans made any threatening moves. Jake walked straight up to Commander Zexthul. The massive Thrakari warrior towered over the human, sharp teeth visible as he breathed heavily with anger. Commander, Jake said politely, I've been reading about the Battle of Kepler Station. Your tactical manual calls it the greatest space victory in Thrakari history. Zexthul blinked in surprise. You have read our military texts? I'm a military historian, Jake explained. The way your fleet used asteroid fields as cover while attacking from 3 directions was brilliant. I've never seen anything like it in human warfare. The Thrakari commander's aggressive stance softened slightly. You understand military tactics? I try to learn from the best, Jake said. Could you explain how you coordinated the timing between your 3 attack groups? Our generals have been debating that for months. Meanwhile, Maria had approached the nervous Aquarian delegation. The Aquarians looked like large jellyfish in water-filled mobility suits. They had been quiet during the arguments, but Maria could see they were worried. Ambassador Coral Singer, Maria said gently, you look concerned about the shipping route discussion. The Aquarian's translator created bubbling sounds. The tidal Commonwealth fears being forgotten. Large species argue while small species suffer. Maria nodded understanding. The shipping routes would affect your mineral imports, wouldn't they? Your people need specific deep ocean metals that only come from the outer rim. You know of our needs? Coral Singer asked, surprised. I studied all the council members before coming here, Maria said. Your people's requirement for rare minerals is actually key to solving this whole dispute. Without Aquarian support, neither the consortium nor the Alliance can make their shipping claims work. Across the room, Jake was now surrounded by half the Thrakari Guard unit. They were all talking excitedly about military history. Commander Zexthul was drawing battle diagrams on Jake's tablet, explaining Thrakari warfare techniques. Humans fight differently than us, Zexthul was saying. But you understand honor in battle. This is good. Every species fights differently, Jake agreed. The Soros use patience and planning. The Klaxon use coordination and numbers. The Ethereals use energy manipulation we can barely understand. Each approach has its own wisdom. Scale Master Vorth had been listening from nearby. The scarred reptilian walked over slowly. You study Saros military doctrine as well? The siege of Proxima Prime, Jake nodded. Your people held off an invasion fleet for 2 years using nothing but defensive positioning and careful resource management. It's taught in our military academies as an example of perfect strategic patience. For the first time since the humans arrived, Scale Master Vorth smiled, showing sharp teeth. You truly have studied our ways. Maria was having similar success with the Aquarian delegation, but she was also talking to the small outer rim species who rarely spoke during council sessions. The crystalline hegemony needs those shipping routes for medical supplies, she was explaining to Coral Singer. Their home planets don't produce the biological compounds they need for healing. And the Dustwalker Confederation requires regular food shipments because their worlds are mostly desert. The large species do not consider such needs, Coral Singer observed sadly. They will if we present the information correctly, Maria said. Commander Zexthul wants to protect trade routes. Scale Master Vorth wants to ensure proper legal claims. Both of them are reasonable people who care about smaller species. They just don't have all the facts. By the time the recess ended, the atmosphere in the room had completely changed. Jake was still talking with Thrakari and Saros guards about military history. Maria had organized a small group of delegates who were quietly discussing mineral and resource needs. High Counselor Prism 9 called the session back to order. The crystal being flashed curious blue colors as it noticed how relaxed everyone seemed. The Andromeda Pass discussion will now resume, Prism 9 announced. Commander Zexthol stood up, but this time he wasn't angry. Before we continue arguing about shipping rights, I have learned something important. He gestured toward Jake. This human military historian has studied all our warfare methods. He understands that the Thrakari fight to protect, not to conquer. Scale Master Vorth nodded agreement, and he knows that Saros' legal claims are based on ancient mapping traditions, not greed for territory. Jake stepped forward. Both your species want the same thing, safe passage for smaller allied species. You're not really enemies. You just have different ideas about how to achieve the same goal. Maria joined him, and the smaller species have specific needs that both the Dominion and the Republic want to protect. The Aquarians need deep ocean minerals. The hegemony needs medical supplies. The Dustwalkers need food shipments. Ambassador Carter smiled as she watched understanding dawn on the alien delegates' faces. What if, Lisa suggested, instead of fighting over exclusive rights to the Andromeda Pass, we create a joint protection and management system? Thrakari military expertise provides security. Saros legal expertise ensures fair distribution, and the smaller species get guaranteed access to what they need. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Scale Master Vorth spoke slowly. A shared system. Both sides contribute their strengths. Both sides protect those who cannot protect themselves, agreed Commander Zexthol. High Counselor. Prism 9 flashed bright green, the Vorthan color for pleasant surprise. The humans have turned a territorial dispute into a cooperation proposal. But not everyone was convinced yet. The session was about to get much more challenging. The negotiations continued for 2 more hours. The cooperation plan for the Andromeda Pass was working, but new problems kept appearing. Every time one issue got solved, another species brought up a different concern. Trade disputes, territorial boundaries, resource rights, each topic threatened to restart the arguments. But something strange was happening. Each time tensions rose, Jake Sullivan or Maria Rodriguez would quietly move around the room. They didn't make speeches or formal proposals. Instead, Jake would start discussing military history with angry delegates. Maria would sit with worried species and help them explain their needs. Slowly, each crisis would calm down. The alien delegates began to notice. High Counselor Prism 9 flashed curious colors as it watched Jake explain human battle tactics to a group of Outer Rim warriors. Scale Master Vorth observed Maria helping the insectoid klaxon. Delegation translate their complex resource requirements into terms other species could understand. These guards do not guard in the traditional way, the Saros leader murmured to Commander Zexthol. The Thrakari warrior nodded slowly. They guard against misunderstanding, against fear, against the mistakes that cause wars. Security Chief Karen was monitoring the session from her command center. Her screen showed weapon energy levels throughout the room. 3 hours ago, every guard's weapon had been powered to combat readiness. Now most of the alien guards were relaxed, their weapons on standby mode. How did they do that? Karen wondered aloud to her assistant. On her screen, she could see Jake sitting with a mixed group of guards from 5 different species. They were comparing weapon designs and sharing combat stories. Some were even laughing together. Across the room, Maria had somehow gotten the normally silent ethereal collective to start glowing in communication patterns. The energy beings rarely spoke directly to other species, but they seemed comfortable with the human woman. Chief Karen, her assistant said, incoming priority message from Outer Sector Command. They're detecting unusual movement in the Hegemony fleet. Karen's attention snapped to her tactical display. 3 Hegemony warships had changed course and were approaching Nexus Prime. According to their transponder signals, they were carrying additional delegates. But something felt wrong. Run deep scans on those ships, Karen ordered. Full spectrum analysis. While she worked, the council session continued. They had moved on to discussing mineral mining rights in the neutral zone. The conversation was getting heated again, but this time it felt different. Instead of species arguing against each other, they were debating the details of working together. The fourth-hand crystals could provide the precision needed for deep core mining, Commander Zexthal was saying, while Saros geological surveys ensure we don't damage the ecosystem, added Scale Master Vorth Ambassador. Carter watched this cooperation with satisfaction, but Jake caught her eye and nodded toward his tablet. He had been receiving security updates from Karen's team. The approaching hegemony ships were troubling. Maria noticed the silent communication between Jake and Lisa. She began paying closer attention to the hegemony delegates in the room. Something about their behavior had changed in the last hour. Chief Karen to Ambassador Carter, came the quiet voice through their communicators. We have a potential security situation. 3 unscheduled ships approaching. Can your team assist with threat assessment? Lisa nodded slightly to Jake and Maria. Without drawing attention, they began moving through the room again. But this time they weren't just building friendships. They were gathering intelligence. Jake approached the Thrakari guards who had become his military discussion partners. Commander Zexthal, your people have the best tactical sensors in the galaxy. Have you noticed anything unusual about ship movements today? The Thrakari commander's expression grew serious. Now that you mention it, yes. My ship's sensors detected 3 vessels with unusual energy signatures. They claim to be carrying hegemony delegates, but their engine emissions suggest military configurations. Meanwhile, Maria was talking quietly with Coral Singer of the Aquarians. Ambassador, your people's sensors work differently than most species. Have you detected any unusual chemical signatures today? Anything that might indicate weapons or explosives? The Aquarian suit bubbled with concern. Yes, strange molecular traces in the station's air system. Not dangerous yet, but consistent with preparation for chemical weapon deployment. Jake and Maria met back at their posts behind Ambassador Carter. They had been gathering information from species all around the room, using the trust they had built over the past few hours. Chief Karen. Lisa spoke quietly into her communicator. My guards have some information for you. Within minutes, Security Chief Karen arrived at the human delegation's seats. Jake showed her his tablet, which now contained tactical data from the Thrakari, geological sensor readings from the Saros, energy pattern analysis from the Vorthans, and chemical detection results from the Aquarians. How did you gather all this? Karen asked in amazement. We asked our friends, Maria said simply. Karen studied the data. The approaching ships were definitely military vessels disguised as diplomatic transports. The chemical traces suggested someone was preparing to release a knockout gas that would disable everyone in the council chamber. And the energy patterns indicated the attackers planned to use some kind of electromagnetic weapon to disable the station's defenses. This is a coordinated attack, Karen realized. They want to capture or kill the entire council. Not if we stop them first, Jake said calmly. How? We need to alert everyone and prepare defenses. That would cause panic, Maria interrupted. And panic would help the attackers. They're probably hoping we'll do exactly that. Lisa nodded. Chief Karen, how long before those ships arrive? 20 minutes at current speed. That's enough time, Jake said. But we'll need everyone in this room to work together. Karen looked around the chamber. The council session was still continuing, but she could see the humans were right. If she announced an attack, the delegates would panic. Guards would start pointing weapons at each other again. The unity that Jake and Maria had built would shatter. What do you propose? She asked. We tell our friends the truth, Maria said. Each species has strengths the attackers don't expect, but only if they work together. Jake stood up and walked to Commander Zexthal. He spoke quietly to the Thrakari warrior, who immediately looked alert and serious. Then Jake moved to Scale Master Vorth and whispered urgently. The Saros leader's scarred face grew grim with understanding. Maria approached High Counselor Prism 9 and the ethereal collective representative. Both beings began glowing with focused energy as she explained the situation. Within 5 minutes, every delegation in the room knew about the approaching threat. But instead of panicking, they began organizing. The Thrakari guard started coordinating defensive positions. The Saros delegation began analyzing structural weaknesses in the station's design. The Vorthan crystals started calculating optimal response patterns. Security Chief Karen watched in amazement as her job became easier instead of harder. Usually, emergency situations turned into chaos as different species competed for survival. This time everyone was working together. "Ambassador Carter," she said quietly, "I'm beginning to understand why your guards carry no weapons." Lisa smiled. "They don't need weapons. They are weapons. The most powerful weapons we've ever developed." "What kind of weapons?" Karen asked. "Trust," Jake said as he coordinated with alien guards who had become his allies. "Understanding," Maria added as she helped species communicate with each other more effectively than ever before. "Cooperation," Lisa finished. "The one weapon that gets stronger when everyone uses it at the same time." The attacking ships were 15 minutes away, but for the first time in Galactic Council history, every species in the room was working as a unified team. The attackers had no idea what they were about to face. The attack came exactly when Security Chief Karen predicted. 3 hegemony warships dropped out of hyperspace near Nexus Prime and immediately began jamming communications. But they found something they never expected. Instead of panicking delegates and confused guards shooting at each other, the attackers faced a coordinated defense. Thrakari warriors had positioned themselves at key tactical points throughout the station. Saros engineers had reinforced critical systems. Vorthan crystal guards were using their energy manipulation abilities to strengthen the station's shields. In the command center, Karen watched her screens with amazement. "I've never seen anything like this," she told her assistant. 12 different species working together like they've trained for years. The attacking ships fired their electromagnetic pulse weapon, expecting to disable the station's defenses. Instead, the ethereal collective had merged their energy with the station's power systems, creating a protective barrier that absorbed the attack harmlessly. "Impossible," came the frustrated voice of the attack leader over intercepted communications. Their defenses should have failed. What the attackers didn't know was that Jake Sullivan was in the tactical center, coordinating defensive strategies with military representatives from every species. His knowledge of different warfare styles allowed him to help each group contribute their unique strengths. "Commander Zexthol, your people are natural fighters. Can you handle close combat if they board the station?" Jake asked. "With pleasure," the Thrakari warrior growled. His guards were eager to prove their worth alongside their new human friend. "Scale Master Vorth, we need someone to coordinate long-term strategy and backup plans," Jake continued. "The Soros Republic excels at patient defense," Vorth replied. "We will ensure no attack can surprise us twice." Meanwhile, Maria Rodriguez was in the main council chamber, helping species communicate more effectively than they ever had before. The Klaxon swarm mind was sharing tactical data with the usually isolated Outer Rim Confederation. The Aquarian delegation was providing sensor information to species who had never spoken with them before. "This cooperation is unprecedented," observed High Counselor Prism 9, flashing colors of amazement. "How did the humans achieve this?" "They didn't achieve it," replied Coral Singer thoughtfully. "They revealed it. The cooperation was already here. We just needed someone to show us how to use it." The attacking ships launched boarding pods, expecting to find a chaotic station full of frightened delegates. Instead, they met organized resistance at every turn. Thrakari warriors fought alongside Soros tacticians. Vorthan energy guards coordinated with insectoid Klaxon defenders. The attackers were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and completely unprepared for unified resistance. Within an hour, they were either captured or retreating. As the immediate danger passed, something remarkable happened in the council chamber. The delegates who had been arguing about shipping routes and mining rights a few hours earlier were now planning long-term cooperation agreements. The Andromeda Pass protection system worked perfectly as a model, Commander Zexthol was saying. "We should apply the same principles to other disputed regions." "Agreed," said Scale Master Vorth. "Joint operations are more effective than territorial competition." Security Chief Karen entered the chamber to report on the successful defense, but she stopped and stared at what she saw. Representatives from 12 different species were working together on detailed cooperation plans. Guards who had been pointing weapons at each other that morning were now sharing technical knowledge and battle stories. "Ambassador Carter," Karen said, approaching the human delegation. "I need to understand something. How did 3 humans change everything?" Lisa smiled. "We didn't change anything, Chief. We just helped everyone remember that they have more in common than they thought." Jake looked up from a tactical discussion with alien guards. "Every species here wants the same basic things: safety for their people, fair access to resources, respect for their culture. The methods might be different, but the goals are the same. Maria nodded. Once people realize they want the same things, cooperation becomes natural. The hard part is getting past the fear and mistrust that prevents them from talking honestly. Commander Zexthul approached the human group. The massive Thrakari warrior looked thoughtful. Ambassador Carter, I owe you an apology. When your guards arrived carrying no weapons, I thought you were either fools or cowards. He gestured toward his own guards who were still discussing military tactics with Jake. Now I understand. Your guards carry the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. They carry the ability to turn enemies into allies. Scalemaster Vorth joined the conversation. My people have a saying, the strongest fortress is built from trust between allies. I thought it was just ancient poetry. Today I learned it is practical military strategy. High Counselor Prism 9 flashed bright blue with what looked like happiness. The Vorthan Collective has calculated the efficiency of today's defense. Cooperation increased our effectiveness by 437%, compared to individual species fighting alone. The ethereal collective representative, who rarely spoke directly, began glowing with communication patterns. When it spoke, its voice echoed strangely. Energy seeks harmony. Today, all energies harmonized. This creates power beyond individual strength. Over the next several hours, the Council accomplished more than it had in the previous 5 years. Trade agreements were signed. Territorial disputes were resolved through cooperation instead of force. Defense alliances were formed between species that had never worked together before. But the most remarkable moment came during the final session vote. The question was whether to admit humanity as a full member of the Galactic Council. All in favor of full membership for Earth and humanity, announced High Counselor Prism 9. Every delegate raised their hand, claw, tentacle, or appropriate appendage. The vote was unanimous. Commander Zexthul stood up. I request permission to make a formal statement. Granted, said Prism 9. The Thrakari warrior looked directly at the human delegation. Today the Thrakari Dominion learned that there are different kinds of strength. We thought strength meant bigger weapons and stronger armor. The humans showed us that the greatest strength is the ability to help others find their own strength. He paused, then continued with obvious respect. I formally request that Jake Sullivan visit the Thrakari homeworld to teach our military academies about diplomatic warfare, the art of winning battles. Without fighting them, Scalemaster Vorth stood as well. The Soros Republic makes a similar request. We would be honored to learn these human methods of turning conflict into cooperation. Soon, representatives from every species were making similar requests. They wanted to learn how human diplomatic guards could be more effective than traditional weapons. As the session concluded, Ambassador Carter stood for her final remarks as Earth's representative. Honorable Council members, we are grateful for your welcome. But I want to clarify something important. Jake and Maria are not superhuman. The techniques they use today are not secret human technology. Any species can learn to build trust, understand different cultures, and find common ground. She looked around the room at faces or equivalent features that had changed from suspicious to friendly over the course of one day. We learned these methods because we had to. Earth has many different types of humans who fought each other for thousands of years. We nearly destroyed our own planet several times, but eventually we realized that our differences made us stronger when we worked together instead of fighting. Jake added, every species in this room has something valuable to offer. The Thrakari understand honor and protection. The Saros know patience and planning. The Vorthans can calculate solutions to impossible problems. The Ethereals work with energy in ways we can barely comprehend. Maria concluded, our job isn't to be superior. It's to help everyone see how much they can accomplish together. The session ended with something unprecedented in Council history. Instead of delegates hurrying back to their ships to report to their home governments, they lingered. Species that had been rivals for centuries were making plans to visit each other's worlds. Guards were exchanging contact information and training techniques. Security Chief Karen found herself standing next to Ambassador Carter as they watched the friendly chaos. Ambassador, I have to ask, what happens when your diplomatic guards meet a threat that can't be reasoned with? A species that truly wants nothing but destruction? Lisa considered the question seriously. Then we'll face that challenge when it comes. But we've learned that most threats that look unreasonable are actually caused by fear, misunderstanding, or desperation. If we can address the root causes, we usually don't need to fight the symptoms. She paused. watching Jake explain something to a mixed group of alien guards who were all listening intently. But if we ever do face something that can't be reasoned with, we won't face it alone. Today proved that cooperation makes everyone stronger.
If humanity ever needs protection, we'll have the most powerful allies in the galaxy. As the delegates began departing for their homeworlds,
Each carried something new, the knowledge that their former enemies could become their greatest friends. The techniques that Jake and Maria had